As golfers progress and they get out of the over-the-top big banana slice move, they start learning how to come more from the inside and approach the ball from a path that tends to be too far from the inside. And this starts leading to one thing that makes golf darn right impossible to play consistently, and that is the two-way miss. The two-way miss, for those of you that aren't familiar with this concept, first of all, consider yourselves lucky, but as you get better and you start working on things, you'll start to find this is a very common kind of next step as you progress in your golf career, is that you start figuring out little things that shallow out the swing, shallowing moves like rotation, swing a little bit more inside, more axis tilt, etc., that start leading you to have a path that's too far from the inside. So if I was trying to hit the ball this way and the club is approaching the ball this way, well, depending on what the club face angle is doing is going to determine what that ball does. So if I keep the club face square to the path, I'm just going to hit a 30-yard block out to the right. That's no fun. But at the same point, having the same path can actually hit a shot that's going to go 30 yards left of the target at the same time. It's all due to club face angle. Most golfers tend to think that when they hit a ball really hard left, it's because they came way over the top. But the reality is the opposite is actually true. 9 times out of 10, when you're hitting the ball left, it's because you're coming too far from the inside. And when this club is swung that shallow, it has a bigger tendency to want to rotate the toe around the heel. So because of that, the club face is closing very quickly, and it's very difficult to time what that club face is doing. The trick is one simple thing: you've got to fix your path. That's the number one thing. If you can miss it to the right and to the left, path is your worst enemy right now, and you have to understand what tends to cause that path to be too far from the inside. 9 times out of 10, it's the hips driving and getting the arms stuck behind the body, and the club can't get back out in front until it's too late. And so as it works to the ball, it's still working this way because I've rotated very aggressively and my arms have gotten trapped. There's a lot of videos on the site talking about hip spinners, and that's really what this is trying to address, is those who push really hard. Because as you see, if I turn my hips really hard and shift hard laterally, what happens to my spine? Well, now all of a sudden I've got way too much secondary axis tilt coming into impact, and now the club can come way from the inside, and then I just gotta try and flip that puppy over as hard as I can to try and save the shot. And that's exactly where the two-way miss comes from. Your body senses the club's coming too far from the inside and it wants to hit the ball over here, but yet you're swinging over there. Big problems are gonna show up. So my favorite drill to help people get used to the feeling of bringing the club down on top of the plane, who are coming way from the inside, is working on keeping the hips very quiet at impact and keeping the right ankle, right heel down on the ground. That's the simplest and quickest way to fix this two-way miss. It's very difficult if your right foot's on the ground and your hips aren't severely open for you to create so much secondary tilt that the club drops that far under the plane. So if this is you, the thing I want you to go practice is little half shots, little 9-to-3 shots, where you're just working on getting here and feeling more stacked over your joints, having your torso more stacked over your hips instead of leaned way back here. If you're doing this a lot with the knees kicking in and the foot's coming up in the air, the simple fix there is to combine this feeling of being stacked with your torso while keeping the foot down on the ground. So you're gonna practice releasing like this instead of like this. All of a sudden you're gonna find it very difficult to swing too far from the inside because your body's essentially in the way. When you clear your hips out aggressively, that's what gets them out of the way, and it makes room for the arms to drop underneath and inside, and that's where you start getting this slinging snap hook, push shots, etc. So 9-to-3 shots, just back, shift over, post up. But for you, if you're used to getting your hips very open, so much so that your heel has to come up in the air every time, you're going to feel like your hips are dead square every single time. And your shoulders are going to be square with it. Your hips will most likely be way more open than you think. But if you practice this drill, you can start getting posted up and feel very anchored and solid to the ground, which is an awesome feeling, and it helps you get the feeling of the club working down on top of the plane and on top of the ball instead of this. So if you've got a two-way miss, go out and practice 9-to-3 drills, feeling very tall at impact, right heel on the ground the whole time and see if that doesn't straighten out that two-way miss.